A number of bills have made their way through Congress. President Biden is expected to sign the $700 billion Inflation Reduction Act this week after the House passed it on Friday. For more on that and other news of the week, I want to welcome Democratic Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger from Virginia. Thanks so much, Congresswoman, for joining us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thanks for having me.
So right off the top, before we get into the Inflation Reduction Act, I want to ask you your reaction to how things are going on the ground with Democrats, what they're talking about given the search at Mar-a-Lago this week and the recent reporting that's coming out about the classified documents that were recovered. And now, of course, Chairman Adam Schiff calling for an investigation into those documents.
Well, I'm a former CIA case officer. Before that, I was a federal agent. And so I think that what's really noteworthy here is it is absolutely unprecedented that a former president would, upon his leaving the White House, would take classified documents with him. When requested to return them, wouldn't return them. When subpoenaed to return them, wouldn't return them. And then ultimately to require or necessitate a lawful search warrant executed by FBI agents to retrieve classified information that's not being stored in a classified location that should not be at someone's home is really just an extraordinary reality. And unfortunately, we continue to see so many of my colleagues, my Republican colleagues and candidates, including the one running against me, bashing the FBI, the men and women who work every single day to keep our community safe and to uphold and enforce the rule of law. But this is a very just continuing to be a shocking turn of events. But I'm grateful for the hard work of devoted public servants who want to keep not only our country safe, but the information necessary to do that safe as well.
Act. Remarkably, every single Democrat in the House voted in favor. That's a rare occurrence, I understand, and quite the accomplishment. But I wonder, was news of this accomplishment buried by everything that's happening at Mar-a-Lago?
Certainly not. This piece of legislation is really important. Since I first was elected in 2018, I have been hearing directly from constituents about the need to lower the cost of prescription drugs, about the need to be forward-looking in our policies. And in fact, this bill is wholly responsive to the needs of the people that I represent across Virginia's 7th District. We are lowering the cost of prescription drugs for seniors, giving Medicare the ability to negotiate. We're capping out-of-pocket costs. We're preventing premium hikes for small business owners and families who rely on the ACA. We're lowering energy costs, helping increase domestic production, also helping our farms and ag communities leverage incredibly valuable programs that bring 10-to-1 investments into rural America. That's through the REAP program. We're responding to the climate crisis, and notably as chair of the Conservation and Forestry Subcommittee on the Ag Committee, I am so excited that many of the steps that we are taking to fight climate change are in fact through the voluntary conservation programs that bring our communities, farmers and producers to the table. And most notably, long-term looking, we are also reducing the deficit this bill is paid for. And not only is it paid for, but it uses additional savings to make a payment on our nation's debt, which is so vitally important as we look towards the future.
I want to talk about the climate change provisions of the Inflation Reduction Act. As you point out, lots of funds and incentives going into reduce carbon emissions. But in order to win Senator Manchin's vote here, Democrats had to agree to mandate new oil and gas leasing in the Gulf of Mexico, off the coast of Alaska, something they weren't necessarily interested in doing, and to streamline permitting, at least down the road, perhaps in another bill for pipelines and other infrastructure. And it also incentivizes new renewable energy projects, but building them quickly and coming up on some supply chain issues here that may make seeing the fruits of those incentives not come up as quickly as Democrats may want or may be looking for. I just wanted to get your feedback on that.
So certainly the increased lease number is something that's getting a lot of discussion. But I would just note there are more than 9,000 leases that are currently held and not being utilized because the capacity, particularly at the refineries, is not there. And we know that that continues to be one element contributing to the cost of gas. So I know there's some concern about the potential that there may be increased leases for oil and gas companies, but they have 9,000 that are fully potentially ready to be operational that are just not even being utilized yet. So where I'm focused is on the fact that we're making so many significant investments in new technology. This is a piece of legislation that really allows for the United States to demonstrate leadership on the global stage in our efforts to reduce emissions, in our efforts to fight the climate crisis head on, and doing that in the technological space, in electric vehicle, renewable energy, and also with nature-based solutions. You mentioned some supply chain issues. This is yet another reason why it is vitally important that the president signed into law the CHIPS Act, a bipartisan piece of legislation that went through the House and the Senate. We sent it to the president's desk this week. He signed it. That will work to bring supply chains and manufacturing of chips here to the United States, which long-term is a national security priority. It's important for our competitiveness, particularly related to China, and it'll bring jobs, good jobs, back home to our country.
Quite the week for Democrats on the Hill. Thank you, Congresswoman Abigail Spanberger, for spending time with us this morning.
Thank you.